So I just came in from collecting eggs and we picked up this one, which is by far the largest egg we've collected so far. You can see it in comparison to the others. These are about the average size. So I'm hoping for double yolker. Let's see. Let's crack this thing. And But before we crack this thing open, you may be wondering how a double yolk egg forms or if there's any significance to it. And to understand how a double yolk egg forms, first of all, you kind of have to know a little bit about the chicken reproductive system. Now, female chickens, much like in humans, they're born with every egg that they will ever lay, all within their 2 ovaries. But with a chicken, at some point before maturity, one of those ovaries, and it's usually the right side, the ovary on the right side, will just kind of shrivel up and be non-functional. So every egg that chicken will ever lay usually comes from the left ovary. And now you're probably wondering how in the world every egg that the chicken will ever lay could possibly be inside of even the baby chicken. I mean, wouldn't it have to be humongous? Well, the thing is, the egg doesn't start out looking like this. The egg starts out as just a little bitty tiny yolk with a little speck on it. Now, that little speck is the part of the egg that will be fertilized and turn into the baby chicken. But the yolk itself starts out little tiny. And all of those egg yolks, or follicles as they're called, are clustered together within the ovary. Almost looks like grapes clustered on a vine. And remember, there's one of those for every single egg that the chicken will ever lay. So just imagine how tiny those things have to be starting off. As that chicken reaches maturity, those follicles, those little tiny yolks, will begin to develop at different times. So at any point, at any moment, some of those follicles will still be little bitty tiny. They haven't begun to develop yet. And then others will begin to develop and they will increase in size. And then finally, when one of those yolks has fully developed, it will pass along into the oviduct of the chicken. And from there, it travels through, it takes anywhere from 25 to 27 hours to make it from the beginning of the oviduct to being laid. And along that path, first of all, of course, it starts out as a yolk with that little speck on it. And if it's going to be fertilized, that fertilization happens right there at the beginning. And then as that yolk travels through the oviduct, it reaches a station where it has albumin, the egg white, added to it. And then it passes along through the oviduct, and it gets, as it travels, more and more stuff gets added. The shell gets added on at the end, and then the egg is laid. And then pretty soon, like for a good laying breed, it can happen within an hour. The whole process starts over. A new yolk will be dropped into the oviduct, and it will begin its 25 to 27 hour journey to the breakfast table. So for a double yolked egg, what happens, and it usually occurs in young hens less than a year old, and that's what we have here on our homestead right now. We still have young chickens. And I guess there's a hiccup because this entire reproductive cycle is driven by hormones, right? And so early on, those hormones aren't quite ironed out yet. And so it may happen where a yolk is released into the oviduct, and then shortly thereafter, another yolk is released into the oviduct. Again, it's all driven by hormones and chemicals. So if those are off balance or out of whack, then it can happen, right? And if they're released close enough together in time, then they can get packaged together within the same shell. Alternatively, one yolk could be traveling through the oviduct slowly, or it may encounter some type of an obstacle, and it gets hung up long enough for the next yolk to catch up. And at that point, they finish the journey through the oviduct at the same time, and they get packaged together within one shell. If you're the superstitious type, and I'm really not, maybe a little stitious, but definitely not superstitious. But if you are superstitious, then you might be interested to know that there's a lot of folklore that surrounds eggs in general. You may recall an earlier video that I did about fart eggs. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely check it out. Be sure to pause this video and come back to it though. Don't leave me hanging over here. This is going to be good, I promise. But double yolked eggs also carry a few different cultural connotations. In Norse tradition, they were a sign of death. So if you cracked open a double yolk egg, somebody was about to kick the bucket. Or so they believed. Because remember, they were superstitious. However, in most other cultures, a double yolked egg was a positive omen. For example, in a lot of cultures, they simply just meant good luck. So a double yolked egg was good luck. And that kind of makes sense. Statistically, they say that 1 in every 1,000 eggs will be a double yolked egg. So I guess maybe you're lucky if you've cracked one open. But then again, I learned when I was looking into 4-leaf clovers that those statistics are kind of bunk anyway. For example, in 4-leaf clovers, I learned that having more than 3 leaves is a genetic mutation. And so if you have one particular plant that exhibits that genetic mutation, then automatically your odds of finding a 4-leaf clover from that plant are going to be increased. So statistically, with our chickens, all of them being younger than 1 year old, we would probably be more likely to find double yolked eggs per the number of eggs that we crack open versus, say, someone who has an older flock of chickens. But then some cultures also saw them as bringers of fertility. So if you cracked open a double yolked egg, either somebody was going to be pregnant, or if someone was already pregnant, you're having twins. And double yolker!
Wait.
You want to see it?
See?
Haha!
I want to see.
A double yolk egg. Come here. I had a feeling because it was kind of big and it was kind of heavy. Come around. Hey, what do you know? 1 in 1,000, right? Now, I'm not really going to attach any stitions to this double yolked egg, super or otherwise. So for me personally, all this ends up being is an extra portion on my scrambled egg sandwich. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If so, please be sure to give us that thumbs up and subscribe. Leave us a thoughtful comment. And if you're interested in following along as we continue to try and turn our home into a homestead, then be sure to ring the notification bell so you'll know when to be back for more daily, sustainable living.